Hi, welcome to season 5 of the Digital Rights Africa podcast, where we talk about everything data protection and privacy, child online protection, intellectual property, cybersecurity, and data governance issues across Africa. I'm your host, Teki Akuetteh. And in our hot seat today is Mr. Ridwan Oloyede. Ridwan is the director at the Center for Law and Innovation and also co-founder for Tech Hive Advisory Africa. Ridwan has been doing a lot in the digital rights space. And so I have brought him here to tell us what is happening in the space. You know, he's the man on top of all the trends and everything that's happening across Africa. So Ridwan, maybe a quick introduction of what's new in your space, what you're doing, and what should we be expecting?
All right. Thank you, Teki. It's a pleasure to always connect with you. I think I'd describe you more like the industry OG, but
Ridwan, be careful.
You give me far too much credit.
Be careful. I am a baby.
Baby girl for life. All right, thanks. The year has been quite an interesting one for the continent. We've seen a lot of events happening on the continent, and some of like the key trends we're seeing emerging for the ecosystem. When you were doing the introduction, you talked about child online safety. Mm-hmm. That's been one big issue on the continent this year. We've seen different countries either publishing a strategy or a policy, or you're seeing draft laws that are very focused on ensuring child online safety. And essentially, we've seen that conversation get elevated a lot at policy level, but also finding its way into policy legislative proposals across different countries. Another interesting thing we're seeing, of course, is enforcement. We're seeing increasing amount of enforcement come out, and we're talking about records at different country levels. 3 years ago, for example, we would probably just make reference to say Angola, the fine against the commercial bank about 500,000. But now we're seeing way more in terms of enforcement. And if you look at what's coming out of
enforcement
Kenya,
in which area?
Data protection from Data Protection Authority.
Okay. And what are the decisions covering? Is it from data protection authorities?
Primarily coming out from the data protection authorities, and we're seeing, also them publishing those. Look at Kenya, for example, on different issues. And I think one thing I found really exciting from enforcement this year is a recent decision just this week that involved joint investigation between the Kenyan authority and the Ugandan authority.
Okay.
So I guess that's something we're going to see a lot in the coming year.
Joint
investigation.
What did they investigate?
It was a commercial bank who had operation in both Kenya and Uganda. So they had to combine resources, which I think is also an interesting model.
Yeah.
So that's something we should look out for: cross-border investigations and joint investigations. But beyond that, one other interesting topic this year has been AI governance.
Of course.
Which is it's been really so big. Mm-hmm. So you've got from countries pushing out national strategies, South Africa getting closer to its national plan framework, Nigeria, trying to make all of that progress. But we're also seeing, interestingly, AI specific laws or emerging technology specific laws. Of course, Ghana with the emerging tech bill. Angola has a proper AI draft law. Nigeria, different AI draft law that popped up this year.
I think when it comes to those things, and I'm not cutting you off, hold your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a skeptic.
I know your position on tech specific.
I'm a bit of a skeptic around that, but I would like to hear what your thoughts are around these. Yeah.
For me, I'm more aligned with you also, because I'm also very skeptical about having technology specific laws, for the same reasons concerns would typically have: the precision trap, the law of unintended consequences, and stuff like that. But interestingly, the countries are making it a priority, because you're seeing more countries also talk about it.
But is it because sometimes when I speak to policymakers that are thinking, particularly around AI and AI legislation, I get the impression maybe they do not appreciate the issues and what is actually causing the challenges. Is this something that you are seeing? And how can we change that?
I mean, a lot has been said today, even looking at the sessions that we've had. And, one thing that should definitely...
And he's talking about the Data Protection Africa
Summit 2025.
That is currently happening.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing that came up today, for example, is the role of regulatory impact assessments. You need to understand what you want to... Evidence research should precede regulatory response or even policy response. And that also ensures whatever response we're getting or that whatever response we're also throwing at it is also informed by data, is informed by evidence. So but what you're seeing here is a lot of, Nigeria, maybe about 5 legislative proposals. And now we've also got a digital economy bill that has also AI specific provisions. And then you're wondering
And you know what is funny? I think Europe is actually leading a lot of these things.
Yep.
And even Europe is pulling back, because they're seeing the negative so-called consequences of it.
Trying to do so much.
Exactly. Because and in the end, they're being bitten hard.
Yep.
On the socioeconomic front because of that. And so we're seeing a bit of global pullback.
Yeah.
Is it that our policymakers are not seeing it or they don't really understand?
I mean, I think genuinely it's a race to... It feels like a race to... who does it first? So we're first to do it. I think that's that bit. So... Because again, you look at some framework and you're saying AI specific. So it means if quantum computing becomes a thing tomorrow, we've got a quantum computing law and a quantum computing authority.
And for me, the biggest challenge I have there is that already and I'm not just talking about digital rights, right? I'm even talking about most of the existing legislative frameworks that are meant to govern our ecosystems are already under-resourced.
Exactly.
So if we create all these
new authorities
and new authorities, where are we going to get the
funding
resources to fund them?
I mean, what has also been an issue with creating authorities, also authorities now increasingly also forced to find funding for themselves.
Exactly.
So seeing registration, licensing requirements, also fine as a revenue
which is
model.
also, putting bottlenecks around innovation and all of that.
Absolutely.
And especially if we want to put Africa at the forefront of creation rather than consuming. And already you're coming in late where you're not enjoying economies of scale and you're saddling your innovative space with all these. Do you think that, I'm still looking at a number of the frameworks, even the ones we're proposing in Ghana and other jurisdictions. But I would like to hear your answer. Do you think that maybe they have that in mind and it's creating probably better opportunities for the innovation in the space?
You look at, on one hand, you want to promote an ecosystem where we're saying building out the open source ecosystem, building out the technology ecosystem. But you see, I'll speak specifically to, without mentioning one of the proposed laws, for example, we're talking about critical AI.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do we really have business talking about that? You want to target foundational model? Do we really have business talking about that? When we should actually be talking about, encouraging more investment coming into the space, encouraging more people doing stuff within the ecosystem and build out stuff.
And usually, the legal frameworks, and when I say the people are like, I'm taking money from my mouth, right? Because we work on developing policies and frameworks. The legal frameworks become a enabler. Because if somebody is coming in, there's so many things at them. It may not be because the laws themselves are bad, but the fact that I have to summon even somebody to tell me whether these laws are good or not is an expense, and it may not even steer me on.
We're creating additional compliance burdens. From, in our own context, we're talking about a lot of mid-sized, small-sized businesses. So by the time license here. And, the interesting thing is, depending on the sector where AI is also being deployed, you've got like sectoral regulators, you've got domain regulators. And it just increases cost.
So if you take even a simple area like fintech, you will have cybersecurity.
The cybersecurity.
Then you have the central
bank of the country.
Then you have data protection.
Depending if you're
if there is an electronic transaction
element, there's consumer protection, there's competition.
Yes.
And if you're lucky, you're probably playing in a vertical like insurance, then there's insurance regulator there as well. And yet everyone is demanding something from you. And then you realize, okay, we're literally just trying to even survive to get by the next day. So I think we need to start having conversation more about convergence, where there's like a single entry point, and then it helps us just narrow things down. I mean, yes, we're all for responsible, innovation, responsible governance, but if we're also trying to kill businesses irresponsibly, we are literally throwing out opportunities and shutting the door out.
When I speak to policymakers, I believe they mean well.
Yep.
But I think that, it's more of a misapplied, solution, which I personally think comes from not understanding.
Because it's sometimes reactive. So people think about AI risk. And for a lot of politicians, what they think about is how it could disrupt the democratic gains, how someone can deepfake.
Yeah.
It's more personal to them. No one is thinking about, we have existing bunch of laws that are already deal with some of these risks that you're talking about. If someone wakes up tomorrow and says, we've launched a supermodel that is capable of solving this X problem. But then when you test it, it's not doing exactly what it said. There's already a consumer protection law that talks about things like, fraudulent misrepresentation of products. Are you saying we don't have something already?
Yeah.
So why are we trying to go for, build out this? And
where do you think this is coming from? Because it's a trend that I have seen, picking up quite a bit.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of it, but I think it's first, there's something happening in the global north where you see, the EU doing its thing.
Yeah.
But not so long, agents, AI agents came up, agentic AI came out, which technically those laws weren't sort of designed for. So it's coming, so there's that bit of pressure from some people are already doing it. And this AI thing, the new shiny thing. First, there are folks who think a bit is a new way to extract. So there's a country where, for example, one of the provisions of the law says, if you take a data from our ecosystem to train your model, then you have to pay us. So that's an extraction. So we can make money out of it.
Yeah.
Then you're also seeing, of course, the punitive ones, let's punish, because, our people...
But how are you going to... So, how are you going to see what has been taken? Well, because for me, the biggest conversation about Africa's AI issue is also an infrastructure issue.
It's that bit.
And so if we're not ready to put our money where our mouth is, how are we even going to solve these problems or extract and all of that? So even in the case of the Ghana, where we're looking at the data harmonization and all of that, I have worked in the public service for a while, and I saw those challenges as more institutional turf war challenges around institutional silos that create turfs that make it very difficult to share data.
True.
And it's not, to me, even with existing legal frameworks, right, and without the political buy-in and push, it would be very difficult to implement. Is this something that you are also seeing, particularly around the fact that we are trying to use laws to force people to talk or do things?
Yep. I think about things like harmonization. I think it's be something like an executive order can actually fix. Just tell the institutions, share between yourselves.
And you're the same, same parents, same mother, same children.
And then we're going through a whole legislative cycle to make it happen. But I also, I share your sentiment about how some of the problems are also systemic and institutional. So because if an executive order saying we create like, and now we're talking about countries who are, talking about data exchange points right now. So that's something where if you share more, this is like the benefits. Rwanda, for example, is piloting a data sharing.
And I know Ghana is also
doing something like that. Nigeria is also doing like an exchange. Good initiatives.
And you don't need the legislative bottleneck, because these are also test phases where you can try your hands, understand what works, and allow those low-hanging fruits to work before we build bottlenecks around that.
And I think, honestly, the conversation is to shift to more evidence-based approach, definitely research proceeding, listening to more people in the ecosystem, actually people doing the hard work, building the technical elements to actually hear how things work. Also because so we don't have regulations that completely disconnect.
Talking about people doing the work. So I have noticed a trend across the continent where we're churning out a lot of people that are calling themselves experts. Is this part of the problem?
Anyone can identify as whatever it is they identify.
No, but you see, what
it's a danger.
I see happening is that we have a lot of these experts that are then championing a lot of these initiatives.
True.
And so we are seeing that influence. So is that also a problem? What should we do? I know we need a lot of capacity.
Absolutely.
And to create that enabling environment that we need for digital transformation to thrive. But there is also the danger of mass producing unskilled capacity, passing it off as skilled capacity, which to me is even more dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean, I always say something like half knowledge is way worse than no knowledge, because as half knowledge masks itself in expertise, and then so much confidence. And I think we need that kind of guts and that kind of confidence, really. Everyone needs that brand of confidence. Mask the half knowledge and ignorance in so much confidence. And these are people who sometimes are the loudest and are on top of this conversation.
Yeah, because when you don't know.
Exactly. I mean, definitely, being aware keeps you awake or keeps you awake about the things you don't know. And that keeps you on your toe. But the confidence of that, the people we're talking about and how they find themselves in the rooms suddenly, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, it's kind of dangerous. And I think it's one of the key things that is also slowing down the gains that we need to also make as an ecosystem.
What should we be doing to address that?
You need to filter out the noise. We need to filter out the noise. I mean, so that also falls back on the people listening. So if you as a policymaker, for example, you can always filter out the noise. If you're also grounded in what you're doing, you can know who is spilling dust and who is also grounded in what they're doing.
It's unfortunate, like I'm saying, they're also coming from a place of very little knowledge. And so if you're sitting there and the loudest noise you're hearing is that you need, quantum AI legislation to control your own data.
You need a new quantum authority.
Exactly, to control your own data. And that is it. Is it their fault?
Well, I think it's the fault of, when we say capacity building, it isn't just one way, because it has to go to the people who definitely have to drive this conversation, especially those who have to be on the driver's seat of the conversation. So where it gets broken is if the loudest voices in the room are the ones also then fueling the knowledge base for the people who should be on the driver's seats. That's where, again, it becomes a risk, not even danger anymore. It becomes like red brand of risk. So, but I think at the end of the day, voices like yours, who are, who know what they are doing, needs to also start speaking up more and also start engaging more, honestly, because if we're not...
But I know I don't know.
But, I mean, in the not so know and the not what we don't know, we have an opportunity to engage, share views as well. So that level of engagement then gives us an opportunity to at least know we've played our bit, honestly. At some point, it's more like we've just played our part.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. But I think our time is
Yeah,
almost up. So just give us some parting words. What trends should we be expecting? Maybe some, new AI
I mean, definitely, I think we're probably going to get our first AI law as a continent somewhere next year.
From who?
Whether it's Angola. I mean, my bet is on Angola if I have to say anything. Because I think they've made like a lot of progress. Or maybe one of the Egypt or Morocco, one of the North African countries.
Yeah.
And maybe Nigeria through his the electronic bill would have has like element of AI, but I mean that would not be like an AI specific law, just a law speaking specifically to AI. Some other thing would be definitely international data transfer. We're going to see more African countries drifting towards the CBPR model. We know adequacy is back on the table for Mauritius. We're probably going to get their Kenyan adequacy next year.
We've been talking about for more than 10 years.
10 years. I mean, Morocco, Mauritius, been there back and forth. But I think Kenya might get there first before anyone else. We're going to see more enforcement, of course, more cross-border investigation, like I said initially. New laws. I mean, I expect Liberia, Sierra Leone to cross Mozambique, Namibia. New countries, new babies for next year as well. New authorities, of course. And I think maybe one interesting thing would definitely be child online safety being top of that conversation again, and we'll drive that conversation from just theory policy to operationalizing some of them.
Do you see, of course, you're in the CSO space, do you see us driving more, strategic litigation?
Definitely, that's going to be top. Like, you're going to see, I mean, we're seeing it already, but I also expect more strategic litigations, challenging businesses, practices, but also challenging the authorities when they go foul.
Yeah, I think I like the sound of that.
We're going to see that.
Thank you so much, Ridwan, for coming. You have to come back.
We have to do this again.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to put you in the seat again.
I'll be glad. Thank you so much, Teki. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So all too soon, we've come to the end of yet another episode, and where we've spoken about trends and what is happening across Africa. We definitely shared insights around the fact that there's a lot of initiatives on the legislative front, looking at new frontiers like harmonization, AI. We spoke about the possible challenges of some of those things, as well as the fact that the future looks very bright. And exciting, and we all have a lot of work to do in shaping the ecosystem going forward. Thank you for joining us, and if you are not yet subscribing to our YouTube, kindly do that. Subscribe to our YouTube pages and our social media pages so that you will get an alert once we have another episode ready. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you here another time. Bye.
That's good.